BJ Mafia was popping. So the Jacksonville Jaguars will be taking on the Buffalo Bills in a Week 5 matchup in London. This is the Jaguars' second consecutive week playing in London after they just beat the Atlanta Falcons last weekend 7-23 in a Week 4 performance that bumped the Jaguars back to 500 that they're sitting at 2-2 right now. The Buffalo Bills are coming off an extremely huge win over an AFC East divisional opponent in the Miami Dolphins. They improved to 3-1 in the season, and the Bills' Josh Allen, that's going to take a lot of work in this video, had probably the best game of his career last weekend. We'll get into that in a little bit. But if you go back to 2015 to the present day, these two franchises and both of these fan bases have a lot of familiarity with one another. If you go back to 2015, the Jags already played the Bills in London before, and the Jags actually won that game. Blake Bortles had a rollout touchdown to the left and a diving touchdown to Allen Hurns to beat E.J. Manuel, shout out to the Florida State legend, and the Buffalo Bills. If you go back to the 2017 season, in the 2018 playoffs, the Jags beat the Buffalo Bills 3-10. I was in attendance for that game in Jacksonville. And then if you go back to 2021, Josh Allen got the best of Josh Allen, Jaguars Josh Allen, of course, in 2021, and the Jaguars beat the Bills 6-9 in Jacksonville, and that was the last time the Jaguars had seen the Buffalo Bills. Let's kind of go back and revisit that matchup just very quickly because I want to discuss that here with you guys today. Still 2 years removed, that game still does not feel real in the grand scheme of things. So the Bills' Josh Allen in that game threw 31 of 47, 264 yards, 0 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. He was sacked 4 times in that game and only had a quarterback rating of a 35 scale of 0 to 100. Flip it over to the defensive side of the ball. Jaguars Josh Allen took advantage of Bills Josh Allen all in that game. Jaguars Josh Allen had 8 total tackles, 1 sack, 2 tackles for a loss, 1 pass deflection, 1 quarterback hit. He had an interception and a fumble recovery. You can't make this kind of stuff up. I'm sure the Buffalo Bills and the Bills fans are going to want to plot a huge revenge on the Jaguars in this Week 5 matchup, and I don't blame them because the way the Bills fans probably felt back in 2021 when y'all lost that game is probably how just us Jags fans just felt in Week 3 when we just got blown out by the Houston Texans. I'm sure that's how y'all felt. But like I do for every preview video, I always talk about the opponent first, and that's gonna come with the Buffalo Bills. I'll talk about them on both sides of the ball. I'll then transition into talking about the Jaguars, and at the very end of the video, I'm gonna get my final thoughts and takeaways. But before I get talking about the Buffalo Bills, man, I've got some great news to share with you guys. If you guys did not see, I officially got my credentials accepted as a media member for the Orlando Magic this upcoming season. Regardless if you guys are into basketball or not, I'm sure you guys have all been here supporting me on the channel. Whether you guys have just found me or have been supporting me for, a long time now, man, I've been working my ass off for this, and to be a journalist in order to go work at the Amway Center, to be around Paolo Banchero, the entire core, and this team, it's just truly something special, man. It was inevitable. I knew that all of this hard work and persistence was gonna pay off, and thank you guys for continuously supporting me because at the end of the day, man, I could not do this if it wasn't for you guys. So shout out to the entire Orlando Magic HQ staff, and just shout out to y'all for supporting me. And I just wanted to share that bit of good news with y'all because that was some of the best news I've heard in my 22 years of life, man. That's the reason I dropped out of college, the reason I kept pursuing content and doing my journalism work. So thank you all. Well, enough chatting, man. Let's actually go ahead and talk about the Buffalo Bills now. So despite the Buffalo Bills being 3-1 in the season so far, we have to take a look at their injury report because the Bills are getting derailed with injuries right now. Let's talk about future Hall of Famer Von Miller, who's been on the physically unable to perform list, the PUP list for short, right? Because last year, if you go back to Week 12, he tore his ACL versus the Detroit Lions. And Von Miller in 11 games for the Buffalo Bills last season prior to his injury had 8 sacks, 12 quarterback hits, and the Bills right now, they have not missed a beat through the first 4 weeks of the season. They are tied for #1 in the NFL with 16 sacks and 32 quarterback hits. When you talk about the rest of this defense for the Buffalo Bills, like I said, injuries are kind of piling up. You look at Tre'Davious White, one of the best cover corners in the game of football. He just suffered an Achilles injury versus the Miami Dolphins, so man, prayers up to him. His season's obviously over, and obviously you hope for a fast and speedy recovery for a guy like him. You take a look at Gregory Rousseau, who suffered a foot injury versus the Miami Dolphins. He's been limited in practice. Jordan Poyer, one of the great safeties in the game, he didn't even play last week versus the Dolphins. When you take a look at the rest of this injury report for the Buffalo Bills, you're gonna look at cornerback from Villanova, Christian Benford. He was limited in practice. You've also got Dawson Knox, their tight end. He had a quad injury. He's been limited. Maybe that means more opportunities for Dalton Kincaid, maybe defensively for Kyer Elam from Florida. And since I'm talking about the injury report, I'll go ahead and I'll talk about the Jags injury report as well too. You've got Zay Jones, Jamal Agnew, Antonio Johnson, Dewan Smoot, and Faloranzu Fatukasi all on the limited practice this week, as well as Christian Braswell. And then you've also got Cam Robinson, who's going to be returning back off of suspension. But now really taking a deep look into this Buffalo Bills team, let's start on the offensive side of the ball. This Bills offense is extremely explosive. This has been one of the most dynamic offenses in the game of football since 2020 when the Buffalo Bills acquired Stephon Diggs and got a true wide receiver number 1 for Josh Allen. That's when we saw the ascension of Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen and how great this guy can be. Because when this guy's playing at the top of his game and he's playing to his potential, Bills quarterback Josh Allen is a top 2, top 3 quarterback in the game of football. This Bills offense is number 2 in points per game, number 6 in yards per game, number 7 in passing yards per game, number 8 in rushing yards per game, and number 6 in red zone efficiency. Bills quarterback Josh Allen is number 6 in the NFL among all quarterbacks in passing yards with 1,048. He's also got 9 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, and 3 of those interceptions came in week 1 throughout the first 4 weeks of the NFL season. Like I mentioned earlier, I think Josh Allen arguably had the best game of his career last weekend, Bills quarterback of course, versus the Miami Dolphins. He was the AFC Offensive Player of the Week. He completed 21 of 25 passes for 320 yards, had 5 total touchdowns with a perfect passer rating of 158.3, the first time he's ever done that in his career. And like I said, the Buffalo Bills defeated the Miami Dolphins 48-20. Stephon Diggs was nothing but short of sensational. 6 receptions for 120 yards and 3 touchdowns. And when you want to talk about another offensive piece for the Buffalo Bills, O'Cyrus Torrence has only allowed 6 pressures and 1 quarterback hit through the first 4 games of the season. He's the rookie interior offensive lineman from the University of Florida. A lot of Jaguar fans, including myself, mocked him to Jacksonville, and he's been nothing short of spectacular. The Jaguars took Brenton Strange 2 picks after the Buffalo Bills took O'Cyrus Torrence at the 59th overall pick. The Jaguars had plenty of opportunities to go out there and get O'Cyrus to help beef up this offensive line, and it's looking like it slapped us right in the face. Defensively for the Buffalo Bills, still a stout unit and nothing short of spectacular on the defensive side of the ball. The Bills defense is number 2 in defensive points per game, allowing just 13.8 points per game. They also limited the Washington Commanders to 3 points. Phenomenal job by them. They are number 6 in defensive yards per game, number 4 in defensive passing yards per game. They are only number 20 in rushing yards allowed per game, but they're also number 3 in the entire NFL in turnover differential, the most telling stat in all of football. They've got 8 interceptions and 3 fumble recoveries 4 weeks into the season. After watching the film, especially what this Miami Dolphins team did schematically to attack the Buffalo Bills defense, especially in that first half, you're gonna have to have a lot of misdirection, a lot of play action passes, and be able to get guys to go across the field and especially across the formation. That I felt like was the weak point among this Bills defense, but you know what? With Tre'Davious White out on the outside, maybe that opens up some more deep shots across the field, but I think that right now, the way I view it, you're gonna have to attack this team over the middle of the field and get a lot of misdirection going to keep the eyes moving on that defense. But now transitioning into talking about the Jaguars, man, you gotta start with quarterback at the helm, former number 1 overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, Trevor Lawrence, AKA Mr. Sunshine, Jacksonville's Jesus, whatever nickname you got for him. He's been nothing short of spectacular through the first 4 weeks of the season. Has he had his moments? Of course he has, where he struggled, just like any other player. But if you're not a box score watcher and you've been watching the games, Trevor Lawrence has been sensational through the first 4 weeks of the season. Trevor Lawrence through 4 weeks is thrown for 943 yards, 4 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. He's completed 67% of his passes. He's also the number 2 graded quarterback in the entire NFL, just behind Tua Tagovailoa per PFF. And if you want to also talk about the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence desperately needing help on offense, the Jaguars are number 2 in the NFL in drops. They have 9 drops this season. The Jaguars wideouts need to do a better job of holding onto the ball and catching the ball in order to help their franchise quarterback. And while Bills quarterback Josh Allen has been sacked 9 times this season, Trevor Lawrence has only been sacked 8 times, but it still feels like the offensive line for the Jaguars needs to do a better job. And with Cam Robinson coming back, I assume that means Walker Little's gonna move to the left guard. You're probably gonna keep Luke Fortner, Brandon Scherf, and Anton Harrison with the rest of that offensive line solidified as of right now. And even though Trevor Lawrence has been pressured on 43 dropbacks this season per PFF, I do think that they're going to do a much better job, even with a tenacious front seven. When you talk about Ed Oliver, Gregory Rousseau, who else am I forgetting? Leonard Floyd, potentially Von Miller, AJ Epinesa, the list goes on, right? That Bills front seven is tenacious, especially with Matt Milano coming from the second level. They run a lot of blitzes like that. They do a great job staying in their lanes. That is a very difficult defense and a difficult front seven. I need Trevor Lawrence to get the ball out as soon as he can because he's one of the quickest quarterbacks in the NFL with getting the ball out of his hands in the release time. Can't let Trevor Lawrence hang back out there in the pocket. Get him to use his legs, let him be mobile, let him evade the pocket, maneuver up and in and out of the pocket, and get the ball out of his hands quick. Do not want that Bills front seven getting anywhere near my franchise quarterback. Another offensive standout for the Jaguars has been tight end Evan Ingram, who's had a resurgence in his career since coming to Jacksonville. Through the first quarter of the season, Evan Ingram is #1 in the NFL among tight ends, or excuse me, he's tied for first in the NFL among all tight ends with 25 receptions. He's second among all tight ends with 232 reception yards, and he's first among all tight ends with yards after the catch with 161. Talk about a guy who's been underutilized and still producing in this Jaguars offense through the first 4 games of the season. And defensively for the Jaguars, they may not have the names and the elite talented pieces that this Bills defense possesses, but I'm telling you right here, right now, this Jaguars defense, when they're playing to their game and they're playing to their standard and their capabilities, this is one of the best and most opportunistic defenses in the entire NFL. The Jaguars, like I said, are +4 in turnover differential. The most telling stat in all of football, they have 4 interceptions and 5 fumble recoveries. Take a look in the secondary. Darius Williams is the highest graded corner per PFF in the NFL right now with a 90.1 grade. He also had that pick 6 last weekend, getting his first interception as a Jaguar. Andre Cisco, former 3rd-round pick out of Syracuse, is the #5 graded safety in the entire NFL with an 84.4 grade. He's registered 23 tackles, 3 pass deflections, 2 interceptions, and a forced fumble so far this season. Jaguars' Josh Allen is the 8th highest graded defender in the entire NFL with an 89.8 grade. He has 15 pressures, 6 sacks, and 5 tackles for a loss. Josh Allen has been playing phenomenal. Jaguars' Josh Allen. Through the first quarter of the season, this guy's going to get his bag, and like I've said before, he is going to ball out in a contract year. He's been nothing short of spectacular. Now, to kind of give an overall verdict on my last thoughts with this game, I do think that this is going to be a very down-to-the-wire game. I do not think that this is going to be a blowout. We've seen the potential of Bills quarterback Josh Allen, who can go out there in week 1 and throw for 3 interceptions and be the Jets' best player, or he can go out there and put the team on his back, even versus a Vic Fangio defense who has not played very well through the first 4 weeks of the season, and put up the best game of his career. Jaguars Josh Allen can do the exact same thing. We've seen Josh Allen go out there and disappear, but we've also seen him being a wrecking force and someone to be reckoned with on that defensive line, especially versus Bills quarterback Josh Allen. I do think that the Jaguars defense is going to have to do a much better job of actually limiting big-time plays, especially when you saw what CJ Stroud did to the Jaguars in week 3, where the Jaguars did not do a good job of the single high safeties, not being able to get back over the top. The Jaguars got burnt down the field. You cannot allow a Gabe Davis, shout out to the UCF legend, or Stephon Diggs on the outside to be able to get over the top of this defense, because Josh Allen, Bills quarterback, has the arm talent to make that throw and to get out of the pocket and evade pressure and extend plays. You cannot let him burn you over the top with Gabe Davis and specifically Stephon Diggs on the outside. For the Jaguars offense, like I've said, I think you're going to have to not only run the ball down this team's throat, which is something that they're very formidable with, I think you're going to have to get a lot of guys like Jamal Agnew and others involved in a lot of misdirection, potentially some jet sweeps, and attack this team over the middle of the field. The Jaguars have to do a good job of schematically getting Trevor Lawrence out of the pocket and making sure that they can get him to throw the ball extremely quickly, because I do not want to see that Bills front seven getting after Trevor Lawrence. Now, having said all of that, the Jaguars are the underdogs in this game. They should be the underdogs in this game. The Bills are, as of right now, the much better team, even with a lot of injuries. But the Jaguars have the jet lag working in their favor. The Jaguars have been in London. They're on the UK time zone. I don't know what that time zone's called, but we're just going to say it like that. This evening, Thursday evening, as I'm recording this video, the Bills will be traveling to London. That jet lag and that time to rest and get your body acclimated is going to be beneficial to the Jaguars. That is ultimately what I think is going to make the biggest difference in this game. Having that rest and having that preparation of being there and having the time zone working in your favor, especially with Cam Robinson coming back off of injury. The Jaguars are gonna squeak this win out 26-24 over the Buffalo Bills. They're gonna go down and get a game-winning drive, and this is gonna be a phenomenal game. I think the Bills get a late touchdown at the end of the game. They're gonna go up 24-23. There's gonna be about 1:50 left in the game. Trevor Lawrence, 2-minute drive down the field, take the field goal. Brandon McManus, former AFC Offensive Player of the Week last week, gets the game-winning field goal. Regardless though, the Buffalo Bills are still an extremely great team. Bills Mafia is one of the best fan bases out there. But this Jags team needs to go out there and prove to the rest of the Jags community and the entire NFL community we can beat AFC perennial contenders, and it starts Sunday with the Buffalo Bills. Bills fans and Jags fans, I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. If you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure you guys also go ahead and drop me a thumbs up. It takes 1 second and it helps me in the channel out tremendously. If you guys are new here, consider hitting that subscribe bell to stay tuned for more Jaguars content that I do here on YouTube. And make sure you guys also go ahead and follow me on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it now. I'm very active and I'm on there every single day. The link tree will be in the description down below, so you guys can go ahead and check that out. But Jags fans, Bills fans, thanks again for sticking around throughout the whole video. Brett James, AKA BJ, I'm out, y'all. Go Jags, baby. Peace.